Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you would be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Tlatecatl from Yaotl Mictlan.
Well, okay, first of all, for everyone at home around the world, would you mind saying the name of your band one more time so everyone gets it?
Yeah, it's Yaotl Mictlan.
Yaotl Mictlan. Mm-hmm. And so everyone at home can hear me try several times over the course of this podcast to get that right. Hopefully by the end I'll get it perfectly. And how would you describe the music of Yaotl Mictlan?
I would say atmospheric with Mesoamerican tones.
Atmospheric, would you say you feel closer to black metal in style or kind of a black metal, death metal hybrid?
I think it's more black metal, especially on this new album coming out. Definitely more straightforward black metal.
Was the intention with your band always to mix black metal with these Mesoamerican and traditional folk influences?
Yeah, I think that was always the purpose of this band. My brother and I, growing up here in Salt Lake City, we were in other black metal projects, and I don't know, it just kind of evolved naturally, listening to a lot of Norwegian black metal and, Scandinavian black metal, and they had a lot of, the Viking tones, all the influence that they had, which is amazing. But we were kind of like, well, that's really cool, but we don't necessarily connect 100% with that. So we started looking inward and, what our culture was and what we had to offer. So I think when we, right from the beginning, we definitely had that in mind.
And I think that's one of the most fascinating aspects of your music, because, a lot of people who get into black metal, especially in this day and age, start with that Scandinavian style of black metal and, gravitate towards a lot of the themes that those bands use, which tend to be like, as you said, Viking and Norse themes. It's rare that a band from any part of the world actually tries to find their own cultural heritage and create black metal that way.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised of, how, a lot of, bands around the world kind of just do their, the typical thing of like, Satanism and stuff like that, or even try to do, maybe some Viking stuff or stuff they don't really connect to personally. I mean, I guess I don't know about Satanism, but know a lot of bands aren't really Satanists. So, but yeah, I find that interesting. Um, I don't really get it personally, but they're still great bands. It's just don't really get the theme.
And as far as the Mesoamerican themes, are we talking like Aztec and Mestec folklore?
Yeah, Aztec and Mayan.
And Mayan.
Yeah.
Okay. We should explain what the band name actually means, because this is a term from that folklore, right?
Yeah, so it's from the Aztec language Nahuatl, which means warriors from the land of the dead, which we came up with pretty quickly. My brother is definitely I mean, he writes the lyrics. He surrounds himself with everything Mesoamerican. So he came up with the name really quickly. I don't even remember not having a name. You know how a lot of times you sit there and you're like, oh, what are we gonna be called? And then you're sitting on it trying to find a name for a long time. But with us, it came super quick. I mean, it was, since we were brothers, we were just basically, we started just jamming in my brother's room, and real quick we definitely, I think at the very beginning, we wrote music more like the Scandinavian style, but also we were very influenced by death metal as well. So I think maybe it comes a little bit through more in the first album, but I feel like we started kind of shedding that part. But yeah, just growing up like that, it definitely was a quick direction, quick everything. I think with a lot of bands, you have internal fights, if you want to call them fights, just different directions or anything. But we were really clear on what we wanted to do and what we wanted to establish and accomplish. So yeah, it was definitely an easy process for us.
So you mentioned your brother writing the lyrics. All the lyrics are in Spanish, is that correct?
Correct.
Tell me why you decided to go in that direction.
Well, I think it goes back to the same thing, looking inward and what our culture is, what our heritage is. And we moved to America when we were basically we were teenagers. So I don't know, I feel like you can't have a band singing about these themes and sing it in a different language. It'd be great to if our culture still spoke those languages, those ancient languages, but that's what we have to work with. So, and again, never thought about singing in English. We, on the booklets, we always translated them in English, for people that wanted to know what it's all about. So, but CDs are becoming kind of hard it's hard for people to buy them or something.
Yeah, I did get a press sheet which has your lyrics. Maybe with the Bandcamp releases, you guys can include like a PDF or something so people can follow along.
Yeah, we could probably.
So in the past, a lot of bands from around the world, whether they're based in Japan or based in Scandinavia or wherever, even if they didn't personally speak English fluently, they would feel pressured to write in English, just because in metal, English is almost like the standard language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that black metal did for everyone was bands would write in Swedish or Norwegian, and everyone just kind of got used to hearing the music in different languages.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember listening to like Enslaved and Satyricon, and just like, oh, that's cool. And as a kid, you're not, obviously you're like, oh, cool, that's Norwegian or that's Swedish, but you just kind of, I remember like picking up, pronunciations of stuff during the songs, and like, before, how I went, like you would get a tape, or you would get like a friend that burned you a CD so you didn't have the lyrics and you weren't sure what language they were in for a while, because a lot of times you can't tell in metal, or at least Death and Black. And yeah, like I always thought that was really cool. It's cool, you're listening to someone else's language, and I always thought that was really cool. So I think with us doing Spanish again, going back to the point of we wanted do it because, that's our native tongue. Also for people like us, that want to have something to listen to. And, a lot of people don't speak English, and, not that we're not trying to reach them or, like it's not meant for them or anything like that. It's just, that's who we are. And we also want our, the people the heirs of the culture to be able to understand it more than anything.
Let's go over the history of the band a little bit. You guys formed in 1998. As you mentioned, you and your brother had been part of other black and death metal bands from the area. Is there a reason why you guys decided to focus on this?
No, there's no real reason. I think it was more that, with other bands, just, kind of either the bands broke up or something happened. So with this, it was just kind of, kept going, and as you can tell, our last album was in 2010. We're 9 years later, and we're, releasing the third one. So, with people having families and focusing on careers and stuff like that, we definitely took a hiatus, but, we were always basically doing something. I write pretty much all the music, and I had a lot of songs already written, but then I kind of slowed down just because, well, we're not really jamming, we're not doing much at the moment, so I would slow down and, focus on other things, and then, come back to it, and eventually we got it done. I think in the metal scene, or in really, I guess, most metal, people have other projects. It kind of goes with what I was saying earlier there. In the other projects that we had different themes, kind of like the, satanic theme. And then that's kind of more of this other like immortal type band where it wasn't, necessarily about, Satanism or anything like that. It was more like nature, like appreciating nature basically. And then we started this project, and people seemed to really respond to it right when we started too. So I think that also drove us to, hey, I think we got something.
So you mentioned your second album. Would you mind saying the title for me?
Yeah. If I can remember it. Do
you want me to give it a shot?
Yeah.
Okay, be kind. Dentro del manto gris de caic. Is that close?
Close, yeah. It's dentro del manto gris de chac.
Gris de chac. Okay. I tried to get fancy with the with the last drum.
Yeah, but that was close, man. That was really close.
So the album came out on Candlelight. Tell me how you got involved with that label.
Let me see if I can remember the story. So we were, we're just doing our thing. This is MySpace days, and our current label, which was the label that released our first album, did great distribution. So one of the albums got in the hands of some of the Candlelight people, and they hit us up through MySpace. So I remember when our guitarist at the time, he was like, "Oh, we got this message from Candlelight," and shut up, what would they want with us type of situation. And we checked it out because we thought it was some fake thing, but we ended up getting in contact with them, and it worked out. So in all reality, I think it was just good distribution from our label, American Line Productions, and MySpace, because that's how they found us. That's how we started talking to those guys.
I mean, you guys must have been stoked for a black metal band to release an album on the same label that gave us Emperor and Enslaved and all the classic second wave releases.
Yeah, man, we were ecstatic. Yeah, it was definitely an honor to it was crazy because we you would go on their website and we'd be next to Zyklon. It's like, holy crap. So yeah, no, it was a trip. It was awesome.
What do you remember about the reaction to the album?
The second album?
Oh yeah, to the second album.
I mean, it seemed like it was good, but that was around the time that my brother was focusing on his family and his career. So kind of we didn't do much. We did a tour. We did we did 2 tours in Mexico. It was good. People definitely seemed to like it. So I think it was a positive response. And I think, at that point we had gotten a little bit more gravitated towards, if you want to call it straight black metal, but with, the atmosphere that I really like. I personally like to create. So it was definitely a positive response from the fans. Going to Eastern Europe for a tour, and it was pretty cool. I mean, if people it reached people out there, so I mean, people were singing along to the lyrics. So I think it did well.
And the album came out at a time when there was something of a renaissance for American black metal. Wolves in the Throne Room had become very popular, and there were a bunch of bands coming out of the Pacific Northwest that were doing that kind of atmospheric, kind of epic black metal sound. And there are also a lot of bands coming out from the East Coast who were doing kind of a progressive or technical death black thing, like Krallis and that crew.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you feel like you guys had a lot of peers within the U.S. black metal scene?
Within the metal scene?
Within the U.S. black metal scene.
I don't. I mean, not that we had like enemies, or it's not like anybody. Yes and no. You know, I think I'm not. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest. Just because it's, you know, everybody's doing their own thing, and I don't know. I'm not too much in contact with, you know, with a lot of people. So I think yeah, my brother would be a better person. He's usually the the guy that networks and is definitely more involved in all that.
Yeah, fair enough. But in terms of the atmospheric sound that you guys had developed, did you feel that you could relate to what some of those other bands were doing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, everyone has their own style, but, you know, I think, like you said, I think maybe they were a little bit more atmospheric at that time than we were. I think we were still, you know, we wrote a lot of stuff a little bit earlier, so, you know, it goes with going from, you know, the first album, you know, you start writing right away. So I think by the time that we finished writing the second album, you know, we were more closer to the atmospheric side, but, you know, we still had those songs. But yeah, so yeah, I think so.
Fastidiados con este ruido, invitan a los dos hermanos
I'm curious, do you have more of a following in Mexico and in Latin America than in the U.S.?
I think so. Yeah, I would like to say yes. I'm not 100% sure just because we don't really, since we don't tour much. I mean, we really don't tour. We, we haven't done a tour in the U.S. just because, I kind of feel like I'd rather go to Mexico and do a tour. Not because of, like, go to want to tour the U.S., but I feel like we get more of a response down there. But, at the same time, when we play, like, local shows here, the crowd is awesome. So, yeah, I think so, but I can't answer that definitively. Again, I kind of just write the music and record it and then hope for the best and let my brother kind of take care of the rest.
Based in Utah, is it easier for you guys to tour Mexico than it is to tour, like, say, the West Coast or the East Coast?
I feel like there's, as far as getting a tour going, yeah, I think it's easier to tour Mexico. But as far as, obviously we're in the U.S. and all that, so it would technically should be easier to, the tour the West Coast or the East Coast. But that opportunity hasn't risen for us. So as far as history is concerned, it's easier to tour Mexico.
So let's talk about this new album. I'm going to give it a shot one more time, and then you can correct my pronunciation. Sagrada Tierra del Jaguar. How was that?
Yeah, real close, very close. The J in Spanish is like an H, so
Okay,
it's
I
like
see.
Jaguar. So it's yeah, Sagrada Tierra del Jaguar. Yeah, but believe me, I would understand what you were saying there. No one would not understand you.
Anyways, so the album should be coming out on. The album will be coming out on October 30th. Tell me a little bit about the writing of the album.
Yeah, I definitely was more interested in getting more of a feeling, trying to really put someone, in a dark, dank temple with some fire in there and see where the imagination goes. So actually, a lot of it, I kind of just, would stay up kind of late and, drink some beers and turn the lights off and, I don't know, just go for it. Also, we have a track that one day we were driving to practice, and Yaut was telling me about the story of Tezcatlipoca, and how he came down from the sky into the earth. And I don't know, I got a really vivid vision of it, and I just, as soon as I got into a guitar, we just kind of started writing that song. And actually that was, I think, the second song that we started writing, and that really set the tone for the rest of the album on what we kind of wanted to achieve and how it was going to be written. It was a lot less of a, I hate to say, collaboration, because usually, it's like when you go to practice, oh, I have these riffs, bounce them off each other. With this album, it was more like, I got a setup at my house, and I would just basically write a song, and then we would put drums to it after it was finished. The guitars were all finished, and that's basically how we did it. Is just song by song instead of riff by riff.
So it sounds like most of the songs are completed in terms of song structure before it goes to the rest of the band.
Correct. Yeah, and it's most, we bring our bass player in and stuff, but for the most part, it's just I write the songs, and then we put, like, I have an electronic drum kit here, and then we just connect straight into the program I'm using. We, obviously I give the guitars to the drummer. He puts the drums to it, and then he comes in and records pretty much like a scratch track type of deal with my little crappy electronic drum set we got here. And then then once we like what we hear as far as, okay, like, those beats work, we feel like we captured it, we'll bring, like, my brother has a really nice electronic kit that he can just lug around. So he'll just bring that and make it better, and that way we get a real feel for the song, how it's actually going to feel with actual drums. Once we would get in the studio, and then he would go to town on lyrics, and I am a procrastinator for putting vocals, so I kind of do that very extremely last minute, and like basically at the studio. It's so stupid. I really need to work on that, but yeah, the songs are, at least on this album, that's how we worked it, and it seemed to work pretty well, just because I think it saves people's time with kind of going back and forth. A lot of times when people get busy, like you write a song and then you don't practice for like a month, and then you go back and you're like, what song was that? What riffs? And then you lose something really cool, So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Let's just record it, and I have a process to that, and it seemed to work really well, at least for us.
Tell me a little bit about the lyrical themes for the album.
Local themes are, it goes from, like I said, Tezcatlipoca, a dark god, to, the gods destroying the first people that they created because they were cruel to animals. And so it's kind of a wide range. At some point we talked about making it a theme album, but, it's just kind of hard to do that. But it's all about folklore and everything that Yacht writes lyrically. He does a lot of research on it, so he's extremely knowledgeable of that aspect of really the world. He's in contact with archaeologists that he'll send them lyrics and see if there's any mistakes or anything like that.
So are these actual folk tales that you guys are interpreting and creating lyrics out of, or is there something of a fictional element where you're taking established figures from the mythology and
no, it's all like them? In the glyphs, like Bull Lanzadardos is, it was a king, of what's called a part in Mexico that they found these glyphs, and they discovered that they had a general that kind of expanded, and they found some of those glyphs in a different in a different town. So it's 99% of it is just straight, like this is what it says, this is what it's read. There's no real interpretation. We also do have like a song or two that it's just something like we lost our dad, so we wrote a song basically honoring the dead. So that one's, it's nothing really to do with actual glyphs, but we use a lot of imagery, a lot of things that you would see, like how our ancestors would honor the dead. So in that aspect, that's really the only song. Other than that, it's all comes from actual written down folklore.
Where did you end up recording the album?
So we did it here at his name's Andy Patterson. He recorded basically recorded everything, and then we had it mixed at Sworn Studios here in Salt Lake as well, by Mike Jenks. And those guys are amazing. Like, yeah, we've worked with Andy on the previous two albums. And yeah, so we went back there, and the mixing we ended up doing with Mike just because we just kind of wanted to change it up and and we've known Mike for a long time. He plays in bands around town, and heard some of the stuff he was mixing, and we wanted to work with him.
Do you want to say which bands Mike is in?
Yes, he is in Blood Purge. Yeah, so yeah, Mike plays drums in Blood Purge.
So you mentioned you'd worked with Andy Patterson on the previous two albums. What would you say he brings to your sound?
He brings definitely a natural sound. That's something I always liked about his recording. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. He wants you to play as obviously as best as you can, but he also is interested in what your sound is like, as far as like in this situation, we don't want to get too far from sounding unnatural. So I think he does a really good job at that, and he's always captured that so well.
little bit about the traditional instrumentation that you used on this album.
We use a lot of like, shakers, which are like bones, hooves, or even like shells of like nuts that are hollow. We get a lot of sounds like that. We also have like Mayan trumpets. We have shells, flutes, a lot of stuff. We actually, so before we used to basically do all those instruments ourselves, or we did have a local guy that we befriended and he would help us out, but I think he moved out of town, so we were kind of like in a bind. But we connected with, oh man, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's in Semican from Mexico. And so we send him some tracks and he put some stuff over it. And we also hired from LA, Martin, who we actually like flew him out, and a lot of the clean vocals, the native vocal sound is Martin. So we try to incorporate that as much as we can, but we also don't want to have that be 100% the driving force. So I think these guys like nailed it on how on what they did and how much they did and how they approached it.
It can be tricky integrating traditional instruments into a black metal or just a metal mix, just because metal tends to be very compressed and everything is on 10. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just curious how you guys approach integrating these other instruments into the mix.
I think it's like you said, it's pretty hard. Sometimes you really want something to stand out, and sometimes you want it, just to be in the back, and kind of like if someone really pays attention to it, they'll hear it. So I think it's just like adding another guitar or anything like that. You want to make sure that it's where it needs to be, really. We want that to be present, but I think the main focus is still the metal part of it, but with the instruments, they bring something to it. Obviously, they definitely make you feel like you're somewhere else, or you're definitely getting that vibe, that feeling from those instruments. So it is tough, and we actually spend quite a bit of time in the mixing process of, like, do we want to lose this part? Because then it's taken away from, whether it's the drums, the vocals, or whatever. Is it getting too noisy? Which we did have to cut some, and it's always super hard to cut that, just because someone worked on that, and B, it's just, mixing can be so tedious and hard, and you kind of have to make these decisions on what's more important, what's going to make this riff be the best riff it can, which whether it's bringing down the guitars or the vocals and bring the instruments up, the native instruments up, then so be it, and vice versa. So I think approaching it riff by riff is basically the way we ended up doing it. Get a mix back. Like, oh, okay, I think we can bring that up a little bit more. I also, I think, my brother was kind of frustrated with me because I wasn't finishing the album because I was taking forever and minute details of that. But I think, it's super important. So, yeah, it's very difficult to get the right mix on those.
And when you play live, how do you handle the traditional instrumentation? Do you guys use a backing track?
Yeah, basically we have a sampler, and we'll put our samples on there, and that seems to be the most efficient way of doing that. Just because we did try having people on stage with us when we did have a person, and it was just it's super hard for venues to mix that because they get thrown off by it. They're like, I don't know what to do with this, and then you couldn't really hear them, and feedback, and and then that was when we had someone, but then we don't have the luxury of having that access anymore. So yeah, we started doing basically we sampled it, and when my drummer has this sample pad, and he'll just kind of be in charge of that.
Tell me a little bit about the label that's releasing the album.
Yeah, American Line Productions, based out of Mexico. They're great. Like I said, they released the first album, and I think Joel does a great job. He's really good at what he does, so he has very good distro, and we were never dissatisfied with him or anything like that from the get-go. He helped us out quite a bit. But yeah, great label. Do their band's good.
So was your deal with Candlelight more of a licensing deal?
No, it was a three album deal, three records. But like I said, that was around the time that people got busy with careers and family life, and we weren't able to really get albums out, and eventually they just dropped us. I mean, and that goes back to also when we signed the contract, we had I think they wanted to do an album a year or something like that, and I actually fought pretty hard to get that taken off, just because I don't, if you hear about bands that hate their labels and they're just trying to get out of a contract and kind of make albums really fast, and maybe wasn't their best stuff, and they could have been. So I was very concerned about that, so I had them take that off, which kind of backfired, because then there was no there was no fire on your ass to get anything done. So when we got busy with life, there was kind of okay, well, whatever, and we didn't move quick enough.
I can't think of a black metal band that releases an album a year.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember if it was a year or something, but I remember there was something like that, and we did have to basically negotiate that, and yeah.
So as we're doing this interview, the album will be coming out at the end of the week. What do you hope people will come away from the album with?
I hope people feel like they're there. I hope they can imagine it, and I hope that it does something to them. Maybe, I know when I was young, I was definitely impressed a lot by even just flutes and the early Satyricon stuff. That always blew my mind. I always wanted to do something as cool. You're always trying to reach that, and you're never going to achieve it. But I hope people definitely take away. Maybe they'll get interested in the culture and the and the folklore. Maybe they'll want to just kind of research it and see what it's about, and you never know, you might like it. You might find it interesting, want to go visit places. My brother's always going places to see glyphs and be where our ancestors were. So yeah, I hope they like it. Is the short answer.
I mean, people will hear the songs on the podcast, but what struck me is this is a very unique album. I mean, I get a lot of atmospheric black metal albums sent my way, and as a whole, I like the style, but it's very hard to differentiate one band from another. There's kind of an overwhelming similarity to a lot of these bands, and the kind of chords they use and the kind of production they have, and it tends to become kind of generic after a while. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you is it struck me right away that this was a very different album, even before I heard the traditional instrumentation. I think it's atmospheric in a way that almost like you could call it atmospheric and not black metal. Do you know what I mean? Like there's almost like a cinematic or like a soundtrack quality to it.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, I really appreciate that you noticed that, because that's definitely something. I am a lover of all kinds of music, and again, when I got into the Scandinavian stuff, I listened to a lot of classical, and I love how they could paint a picture with music, and I was definitely trying to do that. And kind of like what I said earlier, it's definitely hard to achieve that, and I personally think I don't achieve it as well as as I would like to. But yeah, that's awesome that you saw that or you felt it.
I'm going to butcher a bunch of names horribly, so everyone just bear with me. But the new Yaotl Mictlan album is called Sagrada Tierra del Jaguar. How close was any of that?
That was perfect, man. That was perfect. I'm impressed.
You're too kind. And it'll be out on October 30th through American Lion Productions. Tell people what the best way to order the album is.
Yeah, go on to yaotlmictlan.com. That's yaotlmictlan.com. And you can order it there. Probably by the time that this is out, you don't need a pre-order or anything like that. So yeah, that's probably the best way to do that. Or check out AmericanLionProductions.com online. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Just look for Yaotl Mictlan. Contact us there. We're on there. You'll get a response from one of us. And yeah, Instagram as well. And Bandcamp.
Yeah, and there's a Bandcamp page that people can order the album, right?
Yeah. I wish I knew that right now. But yeah, Bandcamp, you can buy it there as well.
Now, are there any physical releases that people should know about?
Yeah, so the physical release will be out on the 30th. We have CDs. We are looking into hopefully pressing vinyl here in the near future, but that's still in the works.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Gracias.
Happy.